Good evening, everyone. Welcome to English for Everyone. Welcome to another evening where we'll be exploring the English language, a beautiful language. Now, before we go into the lesson, I will be reviewing what we have done so far. English language is a unique language, and by the time you reach high school level, if you want to do English, if you're a native speaker, you should know about 20,000 words. Not a native speaker, for you to do well in English language, you have to know at least 5,000 words and keep building. So a large part of English language has to do with vocabulary. Remember, I told us the last time, I remind us that English language has five main components. 5 main components: grammar, spelling, vocabulary, reading comprehension, and creative writing. We'll be looking at all aspects, but one of the most challenging areas for students is grammar. Grammar sometimes or on many occasions poses challenge, or I wouldn't even say challenges for students, especially if you are not a native speaker. So grammar, and I'm reminding you what grammar consists of. Grammar is phenomenon with, or it is equivalent to, we could call grammar parts of speech, right? Grammar is part of speech. Anytime you hear grammar, it's a synonym, or to part of speech. So grammar, we have 8 parts of speech, and we're going to remind us again: nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, preposition, conjunctions, interjection. We leave out one. Let's go again: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. 8 parts of speech, and we have 3 articles. One definite article: the book, the boy, the bag. It means that you're talking about one specific bag, one specific boy, one specific girl. And you have the indefinite articles a and an. In grammar too, you can have capitalization, capital letters, which is the first letter of proper nouns. The first letter, and you can have punctuation. So under grammar, you have the 8 parts of speech. You have the articles, the definite and indefinite articles. Then you have punctuations, and then you have capitalizations, and that is grammar. But in those parts of speech, there are some challenges. Nouns, well, nouns don't give a lot of problem unless we go on to like noun phrases and those things. But a whole lot of problems when we come on to verbs, verb agreements, past, present, future tense, and all of those give problems at times. Then pronouns. We tend to have some problems with pronouns too. Pronouns, object pronouns, subject pronouns, and the different kinds of pronouns. We have to know when to use them. And so I think verbs and pronouns are the two most, yes, those are the challenging ones. Nouns, sorry, verbs and pronouns. The others are relatively easy. Punctuation easy too, because there are sometimes they are inside marks and outside marks. Capitalization, once you know the rule, good to go. So that's grammar. Now vocabulary. It's important we're going to work on the vocabulary as well, that we know better words. As I said, instead of being repeating yourself and saying words like nice, little, big, and those words, we can use better words. And we're going to be looking at them. Vocabulary include, in vocabulary includes synonyms, antonyms, prefixes, suffixes, homophones, homogram, context clue, all of those make up vocabulary. Then you have spellings, and we'll look at some of the spellings, spelling rules, and spellings that you will have to memorize. Reading comprehension, again we have a list in them, list of reading comprehension strategies, and then you have creative writing. Now with creative writing, it's expressing your thoughts, using your imagination. You know, so many of us mistake grammar for creative writing, but there are so many people who have good competent skills in grammar, but yet still they are not very good writers, because writing has to do with imagination, creativity, and be able to generate ideas. And even when you write, you don't have to get it right, you don't have to get all the grammar right, because grammar is just a part of writing, and it's a small part of writing, because you can always edit. So even if you don't speak the grammar right, if it's not correct, that's okay. Even native speakers like myself, you don't necessarily have to get the grammar right all the time. You can always go and edit, and you can always go and correct. And the same thing with writing. Writing has to do with expression. It has to do with your ability to think, to imagine. And so when you write, you don't necessarily have to get the grammar right. You don't necessarily have to get the spelling right all at once. You don't necessarily have to get the vocabulary, because you can always revise and you can always edit. But we still, within the writing, we want to be able to do write simple sentences, simple compound sentences, complex sentences, and we want to get some of the structures right. And that's why that is the reason for actually working on some of the grammar, so that I want to get some of the grammar out of the way, so when we are ready to write, we won't have much problem. All right, enough said. Now, the first part of speech that we have been looking at is nouns. What are nouns? We have been looking at that. That is one part of speech, and it has to do with names. Names. Nouns are naming words. They name words, name ideas, people, places, things, animals. All right, so we have been looking at nouns, and we say there are basically, some people say 4 main types of nouns and 2 others, but we can say 6 types of nouns. We can say 6 types of nouns, easier to manage. There are 6 types of nouns. 1, proper nouns, and those have to do with names of people, names of animal, names of important places, buildings, months of the year. These are proper nouns. They are written with the first letter. They are written with capital letters. Proper nouns. Then you have common nouns. Common nouns are those that basically you can see with your eyes. They're all around, common. So if you say dog, cat, it means they're common, they're all around. sometimes these nouns are referred to as concrete. You can touch them, you can see them. Then we have abstract nouns. These are, they talk about ideas. We cannot touch them, we cannot feel them. These are concepts. So like honesty, celebration, happiness, joy, love. We cannot touch them, but we can see manifestation of them. So these are abstract nouns. Then we went on last week, we looked at singular and plural nouns. Singular meaning one. In that case, you do not normally add S. But as I said again, in English language, you have so many exceptions to the rules. You might say 10 things follow a particular rule, then you'll say 1 or 2 deviate from that rule. So we say in English language, we have exception to the rules. So we looked at singular and plural, and these you have to memorize them. All right, you have to memorize the rules because, you know, some of them will remember, but some will have to memorize. So we looked at singular and plural, and today we are going to be looking at possessive nouns, and then we'll be finished with possessive nouns, and we'll be moving straight into verbs. So we're going to look at possessive nouns this evening. What are possessive nouns? We're going to be looking at that. Just a minute. All right, so this evening we'll be looking at possessive nouns. Possessive nouns are nouns which show ownership, belonging. The cat's tail, the tail belonging to the cat. So it has to be something that belongs to whose it is. Whose, it answers the question whose. Whose book? Mary's book. Whose toy? Milton toy. Whose box? Grandma box. So it answers the question whose. It belonged to. Now we have something in English language that we call apostrophe. And it's a little sign like this. It's like a comma upside apostrophe. Right? It's the dot is at the top. The comma is down the bottom here, but apostrophe always at the top. So this little apostrophe, this is a sign, apostrophe we call it. In some cases, some of us who know about contractions, we will see this little sign there, the apostrophe. Now this apostrophe can be on the inside as well as it can be on the outside. So we have to know the rules, when to put the apostrophe on the inside and when to put it on the outside. That's all there is to it. When to put it on the inside, when to put it on the outside. And that's possessive nouns. So we're going to look at the rules. And let's read the definition. A possessive noun shows ownership, possession or relationship between one noun and another. As I said, Milton's book, Karen's pencil, belonging to. Excuse me. Belonging to, excuse me, okay. So we're going to be looking at rules for forming possessive nouns. Now, as I said, this little apostrophe here is very important. You cannot, when you're writing, if you're talking about grandma's house, the witch's house, or whatever, you have to put the apostrophe. That's a grammar rule, and it's necessary. All right, rule for forming possessive nouns. Rule 1, add S to singular nouns. Add apostrophe, that's a plus S to show possession. The boy's bag. So whenever I see the boy's bag, I know they're talking about one boy. one boy. The teacher's laptop, one teacher. The laptop belongs, it's the person's possession. It belongs to them. Whose bag, whose book, whose pencil, whose marker, who it belongs to. The car's engine. So that is singular possession. Singular possession. Now we're going to look at another rule. Another rule, so as I said, when the apostrophe is on the inside, it means one. But then I'm going to tell you about exception to the rules later on. When the apostrophe is on the inside, it means one. One person, one animal, one object. The car's engine. The girl's book. So it means one. Whenever you see the apostrophe on the inside, so you have the S and the apostrophe is on inside. So the apostrophe comes between the teachers. So it comes between the R and the S. Teachers. Teachers. So the apostrophe comes on the inside between the R and the S. So when the apostrophe is on the inside between two letters, you say the noun is singular. When it is between two letters, we say that the noun is singular. It's a singular possession. Singular possession. And as I said, you don't have to get it right. There will always be time for correction or corrections. So we don't have to always get it right. So if you're not a native speaker, just keep trying. You don't have to get it right. Just keep trying. So the S is on the inside, meaning between the last letter of the word and the S. That means it is singular. I'm going to give you another rule now. So we say possessive noun shows ownership, and it answers the question whose. Whose bag, whose book, whose pencil. So I'm going to give you another rule. That's rule 1. Now, I'm going to give you another rule. Now, rule 2. James bag. The boss office. The class you could say, probably could say the class teacher, the class, anything that belongs to the class teacher. All right, let's put teacher. Now, what you notice about all these words, James, boss, class. What you notice about all these words? What do you notice about all these words? What all these words have in common? They all end with S. Now, if I'm going to put on the apostrophe, which is that little symbol, little sign, where do I put the apostrophe? Do I put the apostrophe at the end and add an S again? Because it has an S. Should I add another S? Yes. We're going to say James's. So you have to put another S when it is singular. When it is singular, you're talking about one person, one animal, or one thing. And it's all right. If it carries a S, like class, it naturally ends with S, two S's. Boss, James, it carries a S, that's the name. Then what should we are going to put another S and we're going to put an apostrophe between the two S's. Between the two S's, we still put another S. So between these two S's, we put the apostrophe. The apostrophe is a symbol or a little symbol. And that one shows ownership. So you have the boss's office and you have the class's teacher. Or the class's, if you want to put another word, give some space there. Or the class's teacher. The teacher James' bag. The bag belongs to James. The boss office, the office belongs to the boss. The teacher's class or the class's teacher or the class's door, we could probably use something. The classes, we could let me put that teachers here. Classes belong to the teacher. Oh, let me find another word that we can probably use. Let me see if I find another. Classes. The classes. Trying to think of another. The classes. Okay, let's put the door. The door belongs. Let us put the door. All right, let's put an object. It will come off a little better. The class's door. The door belongs to the class. The class's door. So these words, they are singular. And whenever you find a word that is singular, if it ends with an S, you have to add the apostrophe and then add another S. And then add another S. All right, so that's rule 2. Now, rule 3. The students book. The boys' kites. All right, let's look at those. The students' books, the boys' kite. Where should we put the apostrophe? Where should we put the apostrophe, you think? The student's book, the boys' kites, okay, I never want to give another the, but the girls, I never want to put another the, but we can, for the time being, the girls' uniform. Where should I put the apostrophe? Where should I put the apostrophe? These words are already plural. Where should I put the apostrophe? On the inside or on the outside? We put the apostrophe on the outside. So, the rule is when the word ends with an S When the word ends with an S, it's already plural. We put the apostrophe on the outside. So when we're talking about plural nouns, normally, if it ends with an S, you put it on the outside, the apostrophe. The apostrophe goes on the outside. So let's go it again. As I said, we have to go it many times so that we can remember. When it's singular, when it's a singular possessive noun, the apostrophe goes on the inside between the last letter and the S. When it is a plural, when it's singular, it goes on the inside. When it is plural, it goes on the outside. So let's go. If I see the word girls, and I see it on the outside, right away I know that they're talking about more than one girls. They're talking about maybe 2, 3 girls. If I see the word birds, and I see it on the outside, I see the apostrophe on the outside, I know that they're talking about more than one birds. They're talking about more than one birds. It could be 2, 3, 4. If I see the word caps, and I see it on the outside again, cats, I want to write cats, and I see it on the outside, I know that they're talking about more than one cats. Now, if I see this now, if I see girl, and the apostrophe is on the inside between the L and the S, I know they're talking about one girl. If I see the word birds, and I see the apostrophe between the D and the S, I know that they're talking about one bird. If I see the word cats, and I see the apostrophe on the inside, I know that they are talking about one cat. All right, so that's the rule. Whenever you have a plural noun showing plural possessive form, the apostrophe, that little symbol, is on the outside. When it is singular, it is on the inside. All right? So we're going to go on to rule number 4. Rule number 4. Rule number 4, and we're going to look at this one. Adding S to irregular plural form. Adding S to irregular plural form. All right. Remember some irregular plural form that we looked at the last time. We look at them like the word man. We say men. We say woman, then women. We say child, then we say children. Then we have people, And we have, all right, so those can be for the time being. Now these are irregular plural form. Where would we put the S? Where would we put the S in these cases? Man, men, woman, women, child, children, people, people. How would we do that? Let me write a sentence. The man bag the man bag is heavy. Now, I want to show that the man possesses the bag, he owns the bag. The man's bag is heavy. I want to show that it is the man's bag I'm talking about. Where should I put the S? Because normally for man, we do not add S. But this one is a little exception to the rule. Where do you think I should put the apostrophe? On the outside or on the inside? Where should I put the apostrophe? Think about it. Where should I put the apostrophe? On the inside or on the outside? All right. So this, you add S to irregular plural form and also singular form as well, because they can do for the man and they can do for the men. Right? So you add S to irregular, singular, so let me put regular, irregular, singular, and plural form, plural form, F-O-R-M. So the man's bag, put it on the inside. The men's, and again, the men's, for irregular, whether it is singular or plural, you put the apostrophe on the inside. The men's boot, or boots. You put it on the inside for irregular. If it doesn't normally carry an S, and you want to show ownership, you have to put it on the inside. So if it's man's bag, the men's boot, the woman's scarf, the women's scarf, the child's book, the children's bag. So irregular nouns, if you want to show ownership, you have to add the apostrophe on the inside. So it's between the last letter and the S. The people's opinion, or opinions. Can be opinions. So those words will normally carry an S. They don't have S. They don't end with S. But if you want to show that show them in the possessive forms, you have to add the apostrophe on the inside. And that's rule number 4. So if it's men's cars, children, child's book, people's opinion. So those irregular nouns, you put the apostrophe on the inside. Rule 5. The main aim of learning grammar is so that you're writing. You can write better. You can write so that your readers can understand what you have written. Writing, grammar helps with speaking, grammar helps with writing, poems, grammar helps with writing stories, articles, and all those. So if you want to write better articles, better stories, then grammar is important. All right. Now, if you want to talk about more than one person, let me write this one. Rule 5, it's rule 5? I think so. Add S to the last noun only. Add S to the last noun only. For example, John and Mark project all right, it belongs to John and Mark. John and Mark project. All right, John and Mark project. Now, if I have John and Mark project, it belongs to both of them. Where would I put the apostrophe? Add S to the last noun only. So for this one, you just put it at Mark. So John and Mark's project. The project belongs to both John and Mark. But you don't put the apostrophe on John, you put it on Mark, the last noun. Put it on Mark. John and Mark's project. The project belongs to both of them. Susan and Harry's laptop. But the laptop belongs to both of them. Let's say they are twin. They appear as a twin. So belongs to both of them. So you would say Susan and Harry. So you don't put any apostrophe on Susan, but on Harry's, you put on the apostrophe on Harry, the name. All right, the last one now, rule 6. And we are on possessive nouns. All right. Suppose you're talking about them, but the thing, they're separate. It's separate. For example, suppose this is something looking like this. Mark and John books. In this case, Mark's and John's book. It means that this one belongs to that, and it's John. So Mark's book is different individually, they are speaking about, and John's book. So they are speaking about two persons with possession. Two persons with possession. Mark, they hold their separate things. So Mark owns some books and Harry owns some books. They are not doing it together, it's individual. So if you see something looking like this, the apostrophe here and the apostrophe here, then you know that it's talking about Mark's book and talking about John's book. But if it belongs to both of them, then the apostrophe is just at one. All right, so let's go it again. We're just going to revise. We are talking about possession. We're talking about nouns. We said there are 6 types of nouns. Basically, 6 types of nouns. Talk about proper nouns, common nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, singular and plural nouns, and so this evening we are looking at possessive nouns. We say possessive nouns are nouns which show ownership, possession, relationship between both nouns in the sentence. And we use what is called a little symbol, a little sign called the apostrophe. It is small and you kind of put a dot at the top and you swing it around. It almost looks like an ear, right? You put a dot at the top and you swing it around. This is called an apostrophe. An apostrophe. And anytime you see that apostrophe, it means ownership. There's another time we use apostrophe, and that is when we're doing contractions. But we'll do that later on. I'll tell you about that. So we're going to go again, just for revision. You have apostrophe when it is one person. Tom's book. Harry's bicycle. Milton's toy or toys. The toys belongs to Milton. When it is one person or the car's wheel or the car's engine, one. When it is one singular, the apostrophe comes on the inside. All right? Let me clean all that and we can look again. Singular. Singular nouns. Singular nouns. Singular nouns. The apostrophe is on the inside. Singular, Tom's bicycle. The bicycle belongs to Tom. It's on the inside. After the M and the S, between the M and the S. Tom's bicycle, ownership. Then we look at singular nouns again. Singular. I think that's the next one. Nouns. These ending in S. That's the one we did. All right. Okay, so the next one, they end with S. Singular nouns ending in S. Jesus. Oh, let me not use this one. All right. We said boss. You can think of some other words that ends with S. SS, two S. Two S's. Two S's. Boss. Moses. Moses. Trying to think of some more. Jesse. Thinking of some more. Moses, boss, Jesse. Okay, glass. All right, those words, they end with S, two S. These words, they end with two S, two S's, two S's. So if we are going to make them to show ownership, we still have to add on a third S. So we say bosses, desk, Moses, rod, Jesse's, rope, glasses, rim, The rim belongs to the glasses, right? So glasses, 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 rim, Jesse's bag, Moses' rod, boss's desk, or boss's chair. So even though they end with two S's, you still have to put on another S, but between the last S here and the S that you put on, you put the apostrophe. All right. The next one we look at is plural. Let me write it here up the top so that you can see properly. If the word is a plural noun, trees, cows, doors, cars. Now, if you find these words and they're already pluralized, if they're already pluralized, then do not put the apostrophe on the inside. If they are already pluralized, you put the apostrophe on the outside, and you don't need to add any more S. Do not add any more S. So you have trees, branches. Trees, branches. The branches belonging to the tree. Branches. Cows, tail. Cow tails. Door, inches. Cars, so these are, so you just put the apostrophe. Cars, seats. The seats belong to the car. So if they are already pluralized, do not put the apostrophe on the inside. It's on the outside. So whenever you see a word and there's an apostrophe at the end of the S, you know right away that it is plural. So if I see the word bags or bats, and it is on the inside like that, as I see that word, I know that it is singular. But if I see the word bats, I know that it is pluralized. More than one they are talking about. All right, so we went on to talk about the other one. We talk about they're adding S to irregular nouns. Adding S to irregular like you can think of mice. Normally that's an irregular, but mice's, tails, the tails belong to the mice. More than one. So you know normally it's say mice's, but when these are irregular, if you have to show possessive, you have to put this. Children, put them on the inside. These all of these irregular. Children's toy. The children's toys, and the men's hat. So these are irregular pronouns. Sorry, these are irregular nouns. These are irregular nouns, and these irregular nouns you put the apostrophe on the inside. Then we look at people if they have the same thing. We look at John and Karen's truck, or John and Karen's truck. And put truck there. John and Karen. So we are going to have to remember to put the capital letter, John and Karen's. So you only put on the apostrophe at the end of Karen's because it belongs to both of them. But if we say John and same Karen, this is John and Karen watches. That means that they have separate watches, they belong to them. So you have to say John's and Karen's. So you're talking about two, they have individual. So John has a watch and Karen has a watch. So if they're individual, you have to put on the apostrophe on both. All right, we're going to wrap up with an activity now. So that is possessive nouns we have been talking about. All right. We're talking about possessive nouns, ownership. So whenever you see an S on a word and the apostrophe, you know that it's either singular, plural, or irregular. All right. Just all right. Now I'm just going to ask you, and we are going to, all right, I'm going to revise from proper nouns. All right. Lantern, mountain, river, and Tuesday. Which one of these, lantern, mountain, river, Tuesday, which one of these you would consider a proper noun? Which one? All right, so all of these are common. They didn't tell you the name. So you must always look for the name. These are not specific names. They give you a mountain, but these are just common mountain. It can be any mountain, any lantern, any river. But when they give you the name, but this one is not any day. It is a specific day, and that is Tuesday. So this one should be written with a capital letter. So this is a proper noun. All right. Number 2. One of these, one will be written in capital letter. That should not be written in capital letter. Please identify it. One word should not be capitalized. One word should not be capitalized in that. Which word is it? Which word it is that should not be capitalized because it is not a proper noun? And if you say father, you are right. Father is not a proper noun. It could be any father. But if they say Mr. Brown, Mr. Smith, Mr. Norris, if they tell you the father, the name, So proper noun has to do with the name. You know that. All right, I'm going to write another list. And you are going to tell me the abstract noun. So you have concert, joy, magazine, radio. Which one is an abstract noun? And if you say joy, you are correct. Joy, peace, long-suffering, happiness, kindness, all these words, they are abstract nouns. They describe qualities. They describe concept. All right? Now, I'm going to write another set of words. I have fleet, cows, birds, farm. Which one is a collective noun? Which one is a collective noun? And if you say fleet, you are correct. Fleet, gang. Let's name some collective nouns. Fleet, gang, swarm, staff, school, herd, audience, congregation. All those that describe mob, anything that describe any words that describe a group of people. Spectators, all these are collective nouns. The crowd, these are collective nouns. And so in this one, fleet is a collective noun. All right? So we have done proper noun, common noun, abstract noun, collective nouns. So we are on 5. Singular and plural. So I'm going to write the singular and you are to tell me the plural. Tell me. All right. We are going to write furniture. Donkey. Ass. Thief. Deer. And scissors. So you're going to tell me the plural, meaning more than one. And these again, I said you have to know the rules. Remember we went through the rules, or some of the rules. Furniture would be the same furniture. Never add any S to furniture. Never add any, stick up, let me just write it a little. One piece of furniture, 10 pieces of furniture, same furniture. Equipment, one piece of equipment, 10 pieces of equipment, never put on S. Information, no matter how much information you get, still information. So you still have to look at those. Remember some of them that we did. Sheep, salmon, fish. When do we use fish again? Remember, fish, F-I-S-H, one fish, 10 fish. One type of fish, you still use fish. But if it is trout, parrots, and different types of fish, you say fishes. So remember, if it's one type of fish, just fish. But if it's different types of fish, fishes. All right, donkey, going to be donkey, D-O-N-K-E-Y-S. Remember, if the vowel comes before the Y, if the before the Y comes a vowel, do not change the Y to I and add ES. Like baby, for baby, let me erase right here. For baby, when a word, the rule says, baby, when a word ends with Y, you change the Y to I and add ES. That's the rule. But there are exceptions to this rule. If the word, like monkey, if a vowel comes before the Y, it doesn't follow this rule any longer. You have to just add S, monkeys. Monkeys with a Y. So donkey will be donkeys. As it ends with an S. When a word ends with S, SH, CH, in some cases O, Z, and X, you add ES to them. So asset will be asses. Thief, when that word ends with F, change the F to V. Drop the F altogether and you add THIEVES. Deer, 1 deer, DEER. 10 deer, DEER. 1,000 deer, DEER. That is one that doesn't change. Scissors. Scissors are always plural because you can't use one part of the scissors. You cannot use one part of the scissors. Scissors, pants, things that have to work together. They always remain plural. Pants, you cannot have 1 foot of pants, so you have to pants. It always go together. All right? So these are scissors, same scissors. Sorry. Scissors. So same scissors, SCISSORS. All right, and then we have been doing possessive form now. And that's the last one. So for the next class, we'll be going on to verbs. For the next class, we'll be looking at the 3 types of verbs. For the next class, let me give you the possessive again. And for this one, the possessive form. Right. So the last one. Classes, rules. Classes, rules. The rules belong to the class. Where would I do with that? What would I do with that? I would have to put on an S. Classes, rules. Pupils. Desk. The desks belong to the students or pupil. Where would I put the apostrophe? On the outside. If it is plural, it's on the outside. If it is singular, on the inside. Except, as I said, there are exceptions to the rules. The rules, like irregular nouns, they go on the inside, like men, policemen, on the inside, mice, and so forth. Now we have come to the end of another lesson. And for the next class, just a minute. For the next class, we will be looking at verbs. For the next class, we will be looking at the 3 types of verbs. For the next class, we'll be looking at the 3 types of verbs. So, the 3 types of verbs. And we're going to move into verbs. And as I said, verbs are very important because we have to write them. We use, I think, more than any part of speech. We use verbs more than any other part of speech. Verbs, we use them, that part of speech, more than any other parts of speech. Now let me remind us that the Write Workbook, which will help you to become a better writer, is available. It's in the description. Please get your copy on Amazon so that when we start writing, and I'm introducing you to writing better sentences, choice of words, and descriptive writing, you would have had your copy. It's available on Amazon. Please remember to subscribe to this platform and remember to like. Also, as I said, the book is available and it's in the description. All you have to do is to order your copy on Amazon. The next class, we will be looking at types of verbs. Types of verbs. I hope you are learning. I hope you believe that English is for you, because this class is English for everyone, and that includes you. This class is all about you. Have a good evening. Thank you.